Hello, good evening, and welcome to Wednesday Night Live from Courtroom Confidential, the fastest growing true crime news channel on YouTube. I am 6 minutes late. I apologize. That is unacceptable. 6 minutes late. I will give you 6 minutes on the back end of all of that. But thank you, everybody, so much for joining us, for being here tonight. We already have a big group in the chat, and it's great to see so many of you, so many familiar names: Cody in Tennessee, and just uniquely Susie, and Kathy, and therapist, and Afton. I got to learn everyone's new handles now because YouTube changed that on us just as I was getting used to it. Sneemac, good to see you. This is your Wednesday Night Live for August 13th, 2025. My name is Joshua Ritter. I am a former prosecutor with the LA District Attorney's Office. I left there to go into private practice as a criminal defense attorney, and this is Courtroom Confidential, where we try our best to present to you both sides of the courtroom, and we hope that we do that. And this is, of course, Wednesday Night Live. We have a special show tonight. Sometimes we like to cover a lot of different things on Wednesdays. Sometimes we like to give you a poll. But tonight, because of a big trial that is highly anticipated coming up, we decided let's dedicate an entire show just to the Donna Adelson trial, which is set to begin here in just a couple of weeks. And we thought, who better to do that but the folks who just contributed 5 Courtroom Confidential memberships. Thank you so much, Surviving the Survivor, because tonight's guest is Joel Waldman, who is kind of my go-to person when it comes to all things Donna Adelson. As always, please stay to the end. We do have announcements for you. Please, if you haven't already, like this, subscribe if you haven't already, share this with somebody who you think might enjoy it. But I bugged my friend Joel. I said, I don't care if you're under the weather. I don't care what you've got going on. Spend a little bit of time with us. And here he is. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Great to be here, Josh Ritter. Sorry for my sultry voice. I'm actually not sick, but I think it's because my kids have been home now for way too many weeks in a row. And I'm a very patient dad, but not like 3 weeks into them being home 24 hours a day. So that could or could not be part of what contributes. And I had to wear a hat because I just can't compete with the hair, dude. So I just decided, you know what? I'm going to wear a hat.
Well, I was even complimenting you on that hat. I like that. It's got the net back on it and everything. It's very cool. I'm gonna have to talk to you about that hat afterwards. We'll talk a little shop about hats afterwards. But in the meantime, I share your pain with having the kids at home. We actually took them all to the beach yesterday,
Nice.
Which is a huge undertaking for us with 3 little ones, and it was windy and there's too much sand. Do you know they have sand at the beach? Well, there's a lot of sand, and the waves were cold, and we were very proud of ourselves as parents afterwards. Tiffany and I both high-fived each other because we're like, you know what? We set about doing it and we did it, and now the kids are happy and they slept really well that night.
Let me just say one thing. Marriage and children is absolute. It's a beautiful thing. It can be difficult at times. We can complain about it. Every single woman is sending us hate mail as we speak, but I think we can all agree that kids need to go back to school. And here in Florida, they start next week. So good riddance, kids. Have fun. I'll see you in the spring.
Yeah, we've got school starting up next week too, and I would be lying if I said that we're not both going not soon enough. But camping next, says Shigo. Yeah, camping next if you can convince Tiffany that the bugs aren't going to eat her alive. She says you can go camping, take a tent. I'm going to be at the hotel, but you let me know how it is sleeping out under the stars. So
Ritter, I've got you beat though, because I've got Fred and Ethel, my pug and my boxer. And I don't know. I don't think. Do you have dogs? You don't have dogs, do you?
No.
Okay,
no, we're not that crazy.
Well, I'm gonna get you 2 puppies for Christmas, because I want you to feel my pain. Because when the kids finally go to bed, then Ethel starts scratching at the door. What do you think is gonna happen? We have 2 guys who are friends talking about life. We're gonna complain about our kids. We're not complaining about the wives, but
no,
and even my dogs.
The wives are watching.
Yeah, the wives are wild.
We're smart enough for that.
Yeah, but
all right.
Tiff sounds like Bugs with the Bugs. That's my nickname for the COE. But anyway, I'll shut up. Go
ahead. This is over 10 years in the making where we're at right now. That is incredible to me. And I was talking with actually Anjanette Levy earlier today. She's been following this case for a long time. And the way that her and I both view it is you cannot, I think it's best to view this whole thing as one large trial that's had several different chapters. It's almost like you've been watching a series and it's every new season is a new trial in this case. And this is now coming up to what we believe, and we'll get into it a little bit more, but what we believe to be the finale to this whole thing. But it is over 10 years in the making. Dan Markel lost his life tragically, horrifically, um, on July 18th of 2014. That's amazing to me that we're still talking about a case being prosecuted that many years later, and we're not talking about it being delayed because it went to trial and came back on appeal, or because some sort of they couldn't capture those involved. We're talking about they've been working diligently. It's just they've decided to prosecute everyone in due course, starting with the gunman. First, we had the prosecutions of Luis Rivera and Sigfredo Garcia. Then we worked our way out to Catherine McBanois.
Yeah, Luis cut a deal. But he's the only one.
Right.
He's the only done. Yeah.
Right. But I guess what I'm saying is that's where they started with him and his deal and the prosecution of the hitmen. Worked their way out to the middle woman of McBanois, prosecuted her. That wasn't an easy undertaking. Had to go back for a second time to get that done. Then they prosecuted Charlie Adelson, received a conviction on him, and soon thereafter, the ink wasn't even dry on the sentencing paperwork, and they arrest Donna, who has been referred to as the matriarch of the entire family. And for people who've been watching, the person that everyone believes is the one pulling the strings behind all of this. And her trial is set to begin here. And I know that you've been living this for almost as long following this trial. When did you first start to really get heavily involved?
That's a great question. 2000, late relative to when this started, but probably the very end of 2021, maybe not even until 2022. We've only been around as a true crime show. Some people wonder who that woman is in the background there. That's my mom. And we thought my mom's a child Holocaust survivor and a licensed therapist. And the pandemic came, and I said to Carm, my mom, I said, let's do a show. So we were just interviewing people, and it's a story I've told so many times, but the short of it is that someone kind of tipped us off to this whole story. We started covering it, and people were interested, and that's all she wrote. And then the whole Idaho murder, that happened kind of right when we started picking this up, and that's how we became a true crime channel. But this story, a lot of people know about it. It's obviously not as big as what happened out in Idaho, but it literally has everything. I mean, you've got a wealthy family, periodontist, private practice, the brother-in-law who's driving a Ferrari with a license plate, Maestro. He's dating a woman that turns out to be the middle woman who he buys. Oh, this is Miami, Florida we're talking about. Part of the story is that he pays for her breast implants. You've got gangsters. You've got a Latin King gang member who's in prison. You've got this Jewish mom, Donna Adelson. You've got the son already convicted. You have wiretaps. You have FBI. I mean, it's the stuff that literally the famous bump. Yeah. So, and he's a super shout. I always say shout. I just said on my show, shout out to the bump man. He's a great guy. He was an FBI undercover. I never knew this. I've learned so much just covering crime in general, but the FBI has a special school for the undercovers. That's him right there. His name is out in the public. I never say it just to protect his identity, but he doesn't trust me. He doesn't need the protection. He can handle himself. But there's, out of all the FBI agents in this country, there are thousands. There's a very, very, very small amount that go to undercover school. It's an actual school. It's training for a very long time, and he's one of them. And preceding this bump, this is my mom calling me live. Ritter, do you mind if I take it?
Yeah, please do. Tell her we say hi.
I'm gonna tell her to watch. She's gonna go, Vatu. I'm on a live podcast, Courtroom Confidential, with my friend Josh Ritter. So go to YouTube, put in Courtroom Confidential, and you'll watch me live now, Carm.
Tell her to subscribe. She's got to
subscribe
and like
and subscribe. She has no idea. Carm, see, she said, look, you heard me? Anything to say to this beautiful community, Courtroom Confidential? I like Ritter. See you later, Carm.
Good.
You hear that? She goes, I don't like you. I like Ritter.
Oh, I love it.
Carm, what do I do for my voice? I'm losing my voice, Carm. Why? Love you. Yeah, love you. I'll talk to you later. Calling to yell at me.
Timing. Perfect timing. I love it.
Yeah, Ritter. I don't know. Is your mom still with us? I hope. I've asked
She
you.
is, but she's in care.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Maybe Carm should be in care, but anyway, she's calling to yell at me for something. So that was Carm. Just another day getting yelled at. Okay. Where were we? I'm sorry. I do that on my show, but I'm sorry to derail you.
The circuitous route in which all of this trial has taken over the years. I will say, to add to what you were saying, one of the most remarkable things about this case to me, you were saying how it's got everything. It's got the FBI, it's got undercovers, it's got, a rich family, it's got, every single piece of kind of intrigue. Not to mention, it's just a tragedy beyond tragedies. You're talking about two, children who's lost their father. They're now lost their uncle. Perhaps they're going to be losing their grandmother. This family torn apart. But I have been, from the perspective of a prosecutor, also incredibly impressed with the professionalism of the prosecution team, the thoroughness of it, the ability for them to know exactly the right charges to bring, which people to charge. They've shown incredible restraint, but they've also done something that I don't think I've ever really seen before, where they've waited. They haven't charged everyone all at once. Usually in these types of cases, you would see everybody from Donna to Charlie to Catherine to Louis to Sigfredo, all sitting in a table together, charged all at once. Maybe not tried all at the same time, but they would all get indicted at the same time. But they've been very methodical, and that's something we're going to get to in a bit. But I think that they've done that on purpose, not as the information has come out. In other words, I don't think they arrested Donna because all of a sudden they felt like they had enough evidence against her. I feel like they felt that way, but were patient, and we'll get into that. But the first thing I want to get into is that this trial, they just had their last hearing. There were a couple of motions that were decided at the very end. It looks like, despite me even saying I thought we were going to get a delay on this, it looks like it is definitely headed to trial. Jury selection is set to begin on August 19th. And one of the things we heard at the last hearing that was not really part of the motions, it was almost an aside, but it's got everybody talking, is that Josh Zellman, Donna's attorney, said during arguments that Donna intends to testify. And that kind of, I don't know if it shocked people or if it was definitely the thing that people are talking about. Tell us your reaction to that. But then also tell us, why is it that they feel that she has to testify?
Great questions. And you bring up a great point as well, because we get that question a lot. There's co-conspirators and unindicted co-conspirators in this case. And some people said, well, why didn't they just charge like the gangsters at one time? Right. Luis Rivera, the Latin Kings guy, took a plea deal. And then why didn't they charge the Adelsons? Well, Georgia Kappelman, who was, by the way, just named prosecutor of the year in Florida, her dad was a quarterback at Florida State University. That's her. And she's probably one of the best prosecutors in the country. And I'm not just saying that to try to get her to come on my show after the trial, Georgia, but I'm saying that because she really is incredible. And we were just rewatching her on Cross yesterday in our show, and she's just she's like a lion in the Sahara. She's just laying there, and when her prey comes, it snatches them up and they're gone. And that's what she's doing here, one piece of prey at a time. And before I get to your question, which I already forgot what it was, just real quick, I know most people think that Donna Adelson's the mastermind and she is the one going on trial, but there are people out there, me being one of them. I really truly believe that Wendy with an I was behind this, and she is the ex-wife. There's no way, this family is very enmeshed, that she did not know what was going on. So I'm curious to see if the next piece of the puzzle, if Donna is convicted, which I'm certain she will be, if they go after Wendy. But I'm sorry, what was the original question? That's my fault.
I'll tell you my original question, but before I do that, I will say I agree with you about Wendy, and we're going to get into Wendy after we talk about Donna testifying. But I agree with you. I don't think there is any way that any of this happens if it wasn't for Wendy's green light somewhere along the way. I cannot believe that Donna or Charlie or anyone would take it upon themselves to murder her daughter's husband, the father of her grandchildren, without getting the okay from her own daughter. And and whatever level or degree of involvement that means, whether that's do what you got to do, but don't tell me about it. And maybe they actually took steps to insulate her to some extent. But I do not think that they go about spending money, finding a hitman, planning this whole thing out if they don't know that she's okay with it. So we'll get into Wendy. I agree with you. But my question was, Josh Zellman said she's going to testify. Why is it important for her to testify? What do they feel that she has to bring to the table? Because where I was going with this is Charlie already tried that route. Did not go well for him. Charlie, who, by the way, seemed extremely prepared. Not that his story was all that great, but he had answers to questions. What do they expect Donna to do any different?
Yeah. So look, the one thing I'll say about this family is that they're not dumb. I mean, Charlie was a very successful periodontist, father, same thing, a dentist, periodontist. But Wendy also went to law school. And Charlie's defense, and I was in court when Dan Rashbaum, his previous attorney, presented the defense, and it was essentially a double extortion defense. And people literally laughed out loud, but they had to have something. And what they said was that this guy, Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera, the two gangbangers from Miami, the connection there was Sigfredo Garcia, he's the father of her children, and she was dating Charlie Adelson. So she connects Charlie to Sigfredo Garcia, this gangbanger. And so Charlie's defense was this guy, Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera, found out that Charlie was this rich periodontist with all this cash that he keeps around, and that because of that, they extorted him for that money through Katie Magbanowa. The only problem with that is that those two guys live about a mile from where I'm sitting right now in Miami. They had no idea who Dan Markel was. They went up to Tallahassee once and drove back, and it's like an 8.5-hour drive. And then the following month or so, they go back, and Dan Markel is shot in the head twice on July 18, 2014. He dies. He suffers for about 8-9 hours and dies the next day. A lot of people don't know that. So he didn't die instantly, and it's disturbing. But he was sitting there grumbling and mumbling. And by the way, his next door neighbor is an elderly man who's really the hero of this entire case, named Jim Geiger, who caught a glimpse of the car. And then it was this old-fashioned police work that got him done. But just getting back to, you almost never, and Josh, obviously you can speak to this better than me, do you hear that defendants are going to take the stand in their own defense? But Charlie had to, because he had to get up there and try to convince a jury that, yeah, well, these gang bangers said, if you don't give us the $1 million, look, we just killed your brother-in-law. Now we're going to kill another member of your family. They didn't know who this guy was, and he was the one person that everyone in the Adelson family wanted eliminated. And we knew that there were conversations between him and Katie. And when Wendy's arrested, when Wendy's questioned, that was a Freudian slip, as they say. But when Wendy was questioned, one of the first things she does is throw her brother under the bus, saying that he made a joke about hiring a hitman. Like, who does that? Why would you do that? So full circle, Donna now has to get up there and explain why she was connected to Charlie. The problem is that there's FBI wiretaps. I mean, they're mother and son, but connected in this. And what they already teased out, Josh Zellman They said that she will, quote unquote, testify to her particular fear of the Latin kings. So it's going to be a parallel sort of defense where I think she's going to say, I was so scared of these guys that, we just had to pay them because I didn't know about it. But my son Charlie told me we were being extorted by these Latin King gang members. Where it gets even more ridiculous is down the road, Charlie speaks to Katie, the middle woman, and starts talking about a quote unquote layaway plan. Like this is a Target and you can pay or a Best Buy and you can pay in installments. He wanted to pay $3,000 a month. I mean, the whole thing is absurd and they all wanted Dan gone. And it's obvious to anybody with a half a brain that it was the Adelsons who hired these people through Charlie's connection to commit this crime. And even his own sister, when being questioned, immediately says that her brother was joking about hiring a hitman, which was not a joke, sadly.
So the theory is that we've got a sneak preview of the defense, and that's going to be that much of her bizarre behavior and suspicious behavior can be interpreted, according to the defense, by fear, that she's caught up in this whole thing. She's fearful. There's these Latin King gang members who are contacting her and going off after her. And that's why she did and said the things that she did. Judge says, fine, but you can't get, you're going to have a way to establish that fear. And the unanswered question coming out of that being the only one who can establish that fear is Donna herself. And then her attorney, Zellman, stands up and says, yeah, well, she intends to testify, which to me is kind of remarkable because defense attorneys are usually a little tongue-in-cheek about whether or not their client will actually testify. It's always the idea of like, well, maybe, they want to defend themselves. Well, they've got a story to tell or whatever it is. But to actually commit to your client testifying is pretty remarkable. Now, doesn't mean she has to. It's not written in stone. She's not obligated to, but they've essentially said that. And it sounds like a large part of their case will hinge upon that. Do you think the other way I'm thinking about this is that, and I'm curious too, because I have a feeling that in my view, this will be the most difficult of all of the trials that the prosecution has had. Only because it's one more degree of separation from the shooters themselves. Every time you move out from the actual trigger men, it's going to be a little bit more difficult because you're going to have to prove every step that you've already proven. And then, you have to prove the murder took place, that it was committed by these trigger men, that they knew Catherine McBanois, who then knew Charlie Adelson, who then, one more step, was being orchestrated by Donna Adelson. So that just makes it a little bit more complicated in my view. Do you feel that part of the reason they want to put her up there is to, one, for her to say, I had no idea this was going on. And then two, you've got a woman who's kind of advanced in years. I imagine she's going to be wearing a very nice Mr. Rogers sweater that day. And she's going to say, she's going to hopefully, pull one of these acts right here and get a little sympathy out of the jurors. Do you think that might be part of the play?
100%. And, I would defer to you on that more than me, but I've asked criminal defense attorneys. We had a show at 7 Eastern tonight on this, and I asked about it, but you're not going to see her like this. You're going to see her in probably a sweater that's buttoned to the top button. You're going to see her hair up in a bun. You're going to see glasses sliding down her nose. There was literally a soundbite that we played in our show where Charlie Adelson says, I didn't even realize myself how much I talk. And Donna is the same way. They're incapable. They're their worst enemies. They're incapable of remaining silent. And so Donna's already been reprimanded by this judge at the very beginning for talking too much. And, it's like the Run DMC song, you talk too much, you never shut up. Well, that's the Adelsons in a nutshell. And there's a problem here. I mean, I get what you're saying, that she's going to get up there and say, hey, I don't know what was going on. I'm an innocent granny. The problem here is that bump that we talked about a little while ago, which is an FBI undercover agent. That wasn't just to have fun for the undercover. That was to draw out the Adelsons. What they didn't know was that they were being wiretapped by the FBI. So as soon as this happened, first of all, she shows really zero fear. She doesn't panic. She doesn't cry. She takes a note, and essentially on that note, what it says is, we're friends. of, or family, it's a little nebulous, but friends or family of the guy who you got to do to do the job, talking about the murder. So he's talking kind of in code. And she takes that note, and if it was any normal person and you were really being handed a note by who you think is a gang member, what do? Go to the
Go
police
straight to the cops.
department.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does she do?
Especially if you feel that note is handed to you by the people who killed your son-in-law.
Right. You've got a piece of evidence now,
Right.
correct? But
Yeah.
what she does right across the street, I'm talking 30 feet from where their feet are towards us, there's an elementary school where she sends her grandkids. And she went there to pick them up. And then what does she do? Exactly what the FBI wanted. She gets on a call with Charlie, and they talk about just the two of us, that it looks like they're interested in the two of us. So they almost like implicate themselves. And that's exactly what the purpose of the bump was. It's fascinating because I had dinner with Mr. Bump, man, who's just a gentle giant, a sweetheart of a guy. And because he went to this FBI undercover school, he goes in different roles, and the stuff that this guy has done. I mean, talking about like a hero in terms of taking out crime. Like, he speaks a bunch of different languages and different accents. Like, he went undercover as a Nicaraguan, which has a different accent than a Honduran, to go after Honduran. I mean, the stuff that these guys do is just next level, but she gets on the phone with Charlie, and I don't want to say implicates herself, but she creates a real big problem, because now they start talking about the bump, and none of it, like I said, is rational. None of it is, let's go to the police. Oh my God. They're coming after us now. No, because they know what they've done, and what they've done is hired hitmen to kill Dan Markel. And so this bump was very effective.
And like I said too, this is all part of that overall incredible professionalism, I think, shown by the investigators and by the prosecution team in this case. Because that bump, by the way, just so everybody understands, to get approval to do something like that, it's got to work itself way up the chain of command, and then back down, and several different people are laying their eyes on it. And quite frankly, it's a very gutsy move that a lot of prosecutors' offices would not sign off on. I'm thinking about my time in the DA's office, and I'm thinking, I don't think we could ever convince them to do that. They're too afraid of their own shadow, because you're now involving yourself in the case. Instead of allowing the case to kind of play out and the evidence to reveal itself, you're playing an active role and participating in the case. They do stuff like this. We've heard of things called like Perkins operations. Well, they will send a undercover into jail with a person who's been arrested to try to get them talking. Again, a lot of approval, chain of command approval needed for that. But certainly to do something like this, to just kind of smoke out the suspects is really aggressive, and I applaud their efforts in it.
Yeah, I'll never forget. Super quick, I have a friend. Shout out to James G. His brother was the youngest captain ever in the NYPD, and when Jay-Z was living in the hood, there was an operation that he was part of called Good Neighbor, and they were trying to root out the drug addicts, and it was literally where the Marcy housing projects, and these guys, like 10 undercover New York City detectives, moved in as just tenants, residents in this housing project. And that's how they busted up this gang. But I mean, just think of the risks that you're taking, and that's what these guys do every day. So it's just, I have such respect for these guys. I mean, it's crazy. A little tangent there, but
same. Sophia Shudroy, I don't know, I'm butchering the name. I'm Chowdhury says, I watched Joel's video today about Wendy's ex-boyfriend interview with the detectives. It was shocking. Yeah. Thank you. I've seen that same interview as well. It is shocking. Therapist, thank you so much for contributing the membership. Cody in Tennessee, thank you as well. All right. The next thing I wanted to kind of get into is, who do we expect to hear from? So now we know we expect to hear from Donna. Do we expect to hear from Wendy? She's testified before. I know she's on the list. Do we expect to hear from her, and what will she contribute?
Yeah, so Wendy has some sort of derivative immunity, which you can explain, and I can't really, but she has like some kind of quasi immunity, and she's testified at the other trials, and she's going to, and she's worn this. The last trial was a different dress than the two trials before, but Tim Jansen, a criminal defense attorney in Tallahassee, famously said on Surviving the Survivor, the reason she was wearing the same dress is because an actress wears the same costume. And I thought that was really powerful. But she is an attorney by training herself. By the way, she thought it would be a good idea to write a book. I think it's This Is Our Story, or This Is, I get all these different shows confused. But anyway, she wrote a book that was fictional, and it was about this mother wife who was upset in her marriage, living in a place called Hiawassee Springs, whose husband was a professor. I mean, the whole thing parallels the murder. I mean, so it's just crazy because it just goes to, sort of forethought of, I guess, forethought of malice. It's maybe a legal term that you guys use, but it goes to show that there was some thinking ahead of time. Wendy's going to sit there and she is going to have to answer questions of the government. And we just watched in our program earlier, Wendy on the stand, and she, being an attorney, is shrewd, but she gets very defensive and very sort of combative. What's interesting is the day of the murder, she's now living in a separate residence. She's now the ex-wife, and she used to live in the home of the driveway where the murder happens. And she happens to have an alibi that morning. She had a flat screen TV and had a Best Buy Geek Squad come over, which I don't know anyone that would actually probably pay. I mean, it would cost as much then to fix a flat screen as it would to just get a new TV. So that was a little suspect. But then she goes way out of her way and drives by the crime scene and sees police tape and then tells police, "Oh, I thought a tree was down." Now, this is where your kids are. I mean, Josh, you have children. If you are driving back to your old neighborhood and you see police tape and you don't know exactly where your kids are, but they could be in that house, you're going to be curious. You're going to wonder why. And then she goes to a police interview and she's not frantic to get back to her kids.
Yeah.
A lot of things just don't add up with Wendy. So,
Yeah.
but that's what she's going to be. She's going to be asked about some of these things.
So derivative use immunity, one thing I think important to understand about immunities, I think we have the mistaken impression that when someone is given an immunity, that it's a benefit to that person. And many times it is, but many times it's an absolute tool to force that person to testify. If they didn't grant her immunity, they couldn't get her on the stand. She could claim Fifth Amendment privilege and say, "I don't want to testify. I know that you're investigating me. You've made that painfully obvious. I'm going to invoke my Fifth Amendment right, and I'm going to refuse to testify." And they say, "We're going to solve that problem by giving you use immunity," meaning anything you testify to, we cannot use against you, nor can we use things derived from that testimony. But what that doesn't do is grant her any kind of blanket immunity for independent information they have on how she may be involved in this whole thing. So it's not like they gave her a get out of jail free card. What they actually did was force her to get on the stand. And I think that's the better way of understanding it. Yeah. She is not the only Adelson, though, that's on the witness list, because Charlie's also on the witness list, famously causing a problem months and months ago when this trial was first headed to trial. And Dan Roshbaum was still representing Donna. He had represented Charlie previously. Now Charlie's on the witness list for the prosecution in this case, which caused a bunch of problems that I won't get into all the weeds on the whole thing. But Dan gets booted off or steps away, however you want to put it. New attorneys get assigned. And it's all because Charlie has this ongoing attorney-client privilege that he has not waived. That all being said, do we actually think he's going to be called by the prosecution, and for what purpose?
Great question. And luckily I asked the same thing. And the criminal defense attorneys and law professors on my show said 100% he will not take the stand. Now, he took the stand in his own defense, but he's not going to back up his mother. And the reason is his case, he still has appeals. And so he doesn't want to say anything on that stand that can jeopardize a possible appellate decision. He has almost zero chance, I think, on an appeal. But he's gonna invoke his Fifth Amendment right. What's interesting is since he essentially threw the Latin King gang members under the bus and said, "Hey, they extorted me," he's serving life in Florida, except he's really serving life in South Dakota right now because he wasn't safe in Florida because the Latin Kings green-lighted a hit on him, so they had to move him to South Dakota. So I'm just interested to see if they're going to schlep his ass back from South Dakota for him to basically just say, "Yeah, I'm not testifying. I'm going to invoke my Fifth Amendment right." So there's that. What I'm really interested in is Rob Adelson. Now there's another Rob Adelson is the estranged brother. He knew that this family was not right and basically removed himself. And it all stemmed because he fell in love with an Indian American woman. And Donna said, "How can you not marry a Jewish woman?" And she basically excommunicated Rob, wouldn't let him get married. Rob didn't marry her and eventually winds up back with this woman. But because of that, he is estranged. Now, he has potentially I don't know what, but potentially has a lot of information about what went on. And he is on the witness list. We don't know if he's going to get called, but it's a very fascinating case, obviously multi-layered.
It's also interesting too, because just in practice, it sounds like in Florida, their witness lists are far more exhaustive and much more like potential people who could possibly be called rather than like who's actually going to be called. So we're trying to kind of read the tea leaves here a little bit to understand what they're going to do with their case, and they may not do any of it. I was thinking what would be great is they've got Charlie under subpoena. Go ahead and drag his butt down here from South Dakota and just have him sit in a jail during the entire trial and then just never call him and say they made a strategic decision at the very end and ship him back to South Dakota. But we'll see what happens. But we have heard from previously McBanois. Luis Rivera has struck a deal, which includes his cooperation, which has now gone on for a decade. Do we expect to hear from these people? Like, is there anyone coming up in this trial that you feel like is going to be somebody new, or you're surprised that they're not going to call that person? Or do we expect to see kind of the same characters testify?
I mean, the short answer is predominantly the same characters. We're not going to, I'm going to defer to the attorneys who've been doing this way longer than me, and they are pretty definitive in the fact that Charlie will not be there. Rob is sort of, up in the air, which would be fascinating. But the three people we're looking at, so that is Luis Rivera. He's the actual Latin Kings gang member. And ironically, he, every time around, is like the most credible witness because he cut a deal. He has nothing to hide. He's not afraid of quote unquote snitching, like, through prison code. He's telling the truth. And so he's very blunt, very, very soft spoken, very speaks in short sentences. He had a learning disability. So a lot of people say he doesn't even, I'm become very good friends with his private investigator that helped on the case named Monica Jordan, who's been a guest on the show. And she tells me she doesn't think that Luis even knows how to read, which is actually very sad, but he had a learning disability and kind of just got caught up in the gang life. This guy, Sigfredo Garcia, he is the father of the woman on the left, Katie McBanowa's children. He is not a Latin Kings gang member, but he got a life sentence and he has zero interest in speaking. He doesn't want to talk. He doesn't want to be a snitch. He's got to live prison life forever. And so he is remaining quiet and cannot expect him to testify. Now, Katie McBanowa kind of came around. People don't really know why. She had a plea deal at one point to basically get out of prison free and didn't take it, and now is serving a life sentence without parole. But she softened up in the last trial and gave a lot more information, and people think that perhaps if she continues to do that, that Georgia will work with her and maybe cut her loose earlier than life, which personally, I don't know how I feel about it. She's got little kids, and that's one thing. Everyone you're seeing here has children. Charlie Adelson has children. Obviously, the Markells, the most important, is their child that was murdered, but the grandchildren are dealing with this. It's such an intriguing, multi-layered story, but it's so tragic at the same time because all of these families are affected.
Yeah. I want to get into, first of all, let me thank Best Nancy for the gift of memberships. Appreciate that. Aaron Cleggett for the super sticker. Appreciate that. Corey May, 6464 says, good evening, gents. Odds Charlie does not plead the fifth. Crazy smart appellate attorney, huh? I mean, we kind of already talked about this, but it sounds like the experts you've spoken to say there's no way he takes the stand and doesn't plead the fifth. I agree with that too. He still does have Fifth Amendment rights at play, and they're not going to offer him any kind of immunity like they have with Wendy. This one thing I didn't quite understand, and if you maybe you do understand this, or maybe it's still unclear, is that the judge seems to be making kind of a distinction between garden variety gang members and Latin Kings. And there an issue came up about whether or not she could talk about Latin Kings, and that she was afraid of them being a Latin Kings gang member, or whether or not they could just talk about gang affiliation at all. And why is there this distinction being drawn here?
The short answer is prejudice. But I mean, like in a legal term. So basically the defense filed a motion saying, look, we want to be able to say X, Y, and Z about Luis Rivera when he testifies. And Georgia Kappelman, the prosecutor, said, no, they don't need to know all of this. It'll prejudice the jury. They just need to know a portion of it. And that's what they argued about. Now, the minutia of the ruling, I have to be honest, I don't fully understand. The only thing I can really tell you is that this time around, the defense has a little more ammo that they can drop, a little more information about Luis than they did the last time. They obviously want to paint to the jury or juxtapose this demure grandmother with an actual Latin King gang member and say, who do you believe? Grandma Donna over there? By the way, her lawyer looks like Tom Petty. That's Jackie Fulford. So they're going to say, do you believe this little old granny with the glasses sliding down her nose, or this Latin King gang member? The irony is, when you hear Luis Rivera testify, you're probably going to agree with me that he is more credible. Again, very soft. Yeah. Very soft-spoken, very to the point, very, very believable. But bottom line answer to your question is the defense wants to prejudice the jury. And this time around, Judge Stephen Everett, who's a fantastic judge, he's like a sweetheart. I see him at the Metro Deli. That's the local deli in Tallahassee. He goes there with everyone else at lunch. Great guy. Anyway, Josh Zellman and Jackie Fulford, the defense attorneys, want to basically say, look, it's a big, mean Latin Kings gang member. He did extort the Adelsons and tried to take their money, but people aren't going to buy it. People aren't going to buy it. They understand that sort of, I don't know, like dynamic, and what was they're gonna realize what was really going on. Jurors are very smart. It's true. You know that, Josh. It's tough to dupe them.
They are, and they also love a mystery. Jurors are like us, like anybody. I mean, they are us. They're human beings, shockingly, and they just they like to kind of unravel a mystery, and they like to kind of get the background story. And I think this case is perfect for that, for them kind of, the bump is a perfect example, just kind of understanding the dynamics of it, how she responds to it, what is all the kind of clandestine conversation that she's having with Charlie immediately afterwards. What does that all mean? The jurors really sink their teeth into that kind of stuff. I've found it, in my experience, to be some of the more convincing evidence to them is stuff like that, where they can unravel the mystery behind it.
That's interesting.
What do you expect to be kind of the aha moment in this coming trial? Like, is there a piece of evidence? We've now seen this play out. I don't want to say that it's just going to be a repeat of the same, but it is going to be very much the same, because they do have to prove a lot of the same that they've already proven. They've got to prove, like I said, they still have to prove the murder. Like they got to go all the way back to the murder of Dan Markel, the connection to Catherine McBanwa, the connection to Charlie Adelson, then up to Donna. So there's a lot for them to prove to the jurors here beyond a reasonable doubt. But is there something in having seen all these trials and being familiar with them that you're looking forward to as being that aha moment? Is it the bump? Is it the emails? Is it the hot mic phone call, which I love, that took place after her arrest? What is it that you think will be something that might carry the day with jurors?
One word: Vietnam. Big problem for Donna Adelson. That's got to be what's keeping up her defense attorneys at night. And for those who do not know, I will tell you, Charlie's convicted on November 6th of 2023 on a Monday, I believe it was, or Friday maybe. Exactly 1 week later, November 13th. That whole week after his conviction, he speaks with Donna about 5 hours a day. It's like 35 hours of calls, and they're being recorded from the Leon County courthouse. So prosecutors are listening. At the same time, Donna Sue Adelson is on WhatsApp and other encrypted messaging apps, and she is speaking with a place called Indochina Sun Travel, and she's getting more and more frazzled and saying, I need a visa urgently. And she pays the money for a more expedited visa. And she and her husband buy a one-way ticket to Dubai, to Vietnam via Dubai. So they're flying through Dubai to Vietnam. And they're in Miami, and they're about literally like on the jetway, about to step onto the airplane when FBI agent Pat Sanford confronts her right there and arrests her. Now, that's Harvey, the husband. This family is a family that, from what I'm told, they're basically slumlords. They own something like 60 units, which is a lot. The father was a very successful dentist. Charlie had apparently millions in cash from a periodontal business and quite possibly dealing steroids, which is what we've been told. And they have all this cash. I mean, he talks about the amount of Charlie now talks about the amount of cash that he had in his safe, which is more than most people have as their net worth. And now this family is too frugal to, if they bought a round trip ticket, Charlie had been to Vietnam, I would say, okay, maybe Charlie said, get away, go to Vietnam. But the consciousness of guilt with a one-way ticket is
one of my favorite things.
It's insane. And at this point, Donna starts to fight, literally, not throw punches, but she's taking her phone and pulling it away from Pat Sanford, the FBI agent who takes it. And now during that arrest, they seize devices. And we don't know what we don't know, but I believe strongly that there is evidence on those devices that will implicate Wendy moving forward. So this, again, just another layer. But Vietnam, and I have a hell of a time getting past that one.
I agree with you. One of my favorite details in all of this is that they, like you said, they spent the extra money to expedite the visa, but they couldn't spend the extra money just to get the round trip, because there would be an argument in there for sure. For sure. Her defense attorneys would have loved to say, how many people you ever see escape the country who buy a round trip ticket? You know what I mean? They would have really driven that point home. But without that, it works the opposite way. And I agree with you that sometimes it's this consciousness of guilt stuff that is most convincing to jurors. There's something about, we can all understand and appreciate the concept of a innocent person being accused of a crime, right? Like, we can wrap our heads around that idea that sometimes innocent people get accused of crimes, and that's what trials are about. But what jurors all do is what we all do. And that when we see a person get accused of a crime, we immediately start to ask the question, how would I behave as an innocent person being accused of a crime? And what we wouldn't do is get on a one-way flight to Vietnam, a country, by the way, that doesn't extradite for something like this. So it's that behavior. It's what would an innocent person do accused of a crime? They may do a bunch of other different things, but it's certainly not trying to flee the country, which it looks like she was. And I agree with you. I think that will be a strong piece of evidence. Talk to us a little bit, though, because another thing that I love about this case, there's many different wrinkles in all of this. And when I say love, I'm not trying to make light of the nightmare and tragedy that this all is, but talk to us about the hot mic phone call that is also part of this whole kind of consciousness of guilt thing, where she's on the phone with Charlie while he's in jail and believes that the phone has hung up, but it has not.
Rule number one, Josh and every other lawyer in America will tell you, if you are in jail, don't talk on the phone because every single phone call is recorded. And it tells you at the beginning, beep, this
Right.
is a recorded call from the Leon County Jail. Well, Donna's talking to Charlie again. They love to talk, and she's talking to Charlie. And Donna is, she's, people said, look, she was arrested at 72, I think, years old. She's now 75. And people are like, she won't make it 6 months. And I was like, you're crazy. 70 isn't that old in 2025. Carm, my mom, at 86, still like strong as an ox. God, thank God, as I knock on a, even though she's gonna scream at me. But she is spry and doing well. And on this call, before the arrest, she's talking to Charlie, but I bring it up because she had a senior moment and she forgot to hang up. And once she forgets to hang up, she starts kind of teeing off on Wendy a little bit, the daughter, and saying, can you believe that Wendy brought up the TV repairman, which was an alibi? Can you believe that she brought up that Charlie was joking about a TV hit? I mean, they're talking about all these things that she shouldn't be talking about, and now it's being recorded by the jail. And so it's known affectionately as the hot mic call, but it's going to show, again, not, I don't know, Josh, if it's consciousness of guilt or just flat out guilt, but it's going to show that she was talking about being concerned about what family members were revealing after the crime. And this is after Charlie's conviction. So it's a telling call. It's an incriminating call. It's a mistake on her part. And one of the very fascinating parts about it is she mentions a guy named Dan. Well, Dan Rashbaum at one point, who's from South Florida, was Wendy and Harvey's attorney, and then became Charlie's attorney. That's him. And that's why eventually everyone was saying, there's going to be a conflict. And eventually Dan Rashbaum had to step down. But she was saying that a person named Dan was basically not advising, but suggesting or encouraging her to leave to Vietnam or helping her or something in that capacity. So now there's even questions. Does this guy, the former defense attorney, will he get called potentially? To the best of my knowledge, he's not on the witness list, I don't think, but my head's a little foggy right now. But that call, the hot mic call, is just incriminating in the sense that Donna is concerned about what family members were saying, how they were acting, what they were doing. And it raises other questions that have come up about, is this family crumbling, and would Charlie flip on Wendy, and all these other potential scenarios.
I have one last question. Well, a couple of last questions, and then do you have some time to answer some of our viewers' questions? I don't want to keep you too long.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
For Ritter, I'll do anything.
Okay, good. The defense
except watch my kids for another 3 weeks. Well, that's
how about take them to the beach.
I love my kids, by the way. I just don't love them when they don't have school. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
The defense has indicated that they're putting on a defense, meaning this is going to be more than just cross-examination. They've already indicated that they probably intend on calling Donna. Do we know of anybody else they indicate to put on? Like, have we got a sneak preview of what their defense might be?
The short answer is sort of not really, but they did say so the judge flat out said, how much time do you need? And and Georgia Kappelman, the prosecutor, said, our case in chief will be about 5 to 7 days. And then the defense said, our case in chief will be about 4 to 6 days, depending on what does and doesn't come in. And one of the things going on here, and this is why I think they're going to get Wendy next, is back in what we found out very recently was, once again, they got search warrants.
Right.
Title what, Josh? Title 10, Title 9. One of the titles.
About, but I can't remember.
Yeah. So they got search warrants to wiretap these people again. And what the consensus belief is that they were wiretapping Harvey Adelson's cell phone, and they got more information. And among the things that they got were jailhouse informants that Donna was either planning to pay some people to testify on her behalf, but also that they were giving information about Katie Magbanua, the Title 11. Thank you to Chelsea Whitaker. But they were also going to give information about Katie Magbanua to support the Donna Adelson side of the story. And so it's unclear. These are kind of shady, unsavory characters. They're both women with long rap sheets who've spent a lot of time behind bars. And so if they're brought in by the state potentially as witnesses, Josh Zellman indicated, well, if that's the case, then we might need a longer defense. So it could be these informants. I would not be surprised if, Georgia is as shrewd as they come. I believe that there is information on those devices that we just don't necessarily know of. And by the way, one of the witnesses for the defense, they have their own high-powered digital forensic expert, because they're going to need someone to get up there and say, well, just because she was on WhatsApp and it was encrypted, blah, 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 blah. So it's going to be maybe what people are not anticipating is a battle of the digital forensic experts or other evidence on those devices.
You brought up that the defense says that their case is going to be 4 to 6 days. The prosecution indicated 5 to 7 days. That seems somehow short to me. Is that what you were expecting? I thought for sure we would be talking about weeks here, but they think they can wrap it up in about, a work week or so.
Yeah, well, my problem is I watched the O.J. Simpson trial live, and that thing went on for 9 months. So then that was the first trial I think I ever watched. So I just assumed all trials went on for months and months and months, but most murder trials are not that long. Charlie's trial was 8 days, 12 jurors, 3 alternates, and the verdict came back in under 3 hours, and that included their dinner break. Here, it's not just Dan Rashbaum, the original defense attorney. Now they've got 2 defense attorneys, and they're going to have more resources and energy coming off the, so to speak, bench to sort of upset the apple cart. And so people think it's definitely going to go longer than Charlie's trial, but my prediction is 2 weeks. The jury selection starts on August 19th, which is this coming Tuesday. And the judge put it in the calendar through September 8th. I'll be shocked. Maybe it goes past Labor Day a couple of days, but yeah, you know the answer to that much better than me. The 8 days for Charlie seemed short to me, but this will probably be 10, 12 days is my guess.
Wow. Yeah, you're right. Trials can be done, murder trials can be done very quickly. It's just, to me, with all the moving parts, I don't know. In my head, I had it going weeks. Jody Arrington, thank you so much for gifting the memberships. Appreciate that. Rachel Evanston, thank you so much for becoming a member. Fala Dammit is how I'm going to say it. It says, thank you. Thank you so much for gifting the memberships. I appreciate you. Therapists, you're the best. Thank you for the gift of a membership. Let's do a couple of questions here. When Pantoufel says, "Hi, Wendy, we know you're watching and are in on it." Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Josh, let me just give one shameless plug, which is
Please.
We're going to cover this trial gavel to gavel live. I'm going to be in the courtroom every day. I'm going to be giving you lunch updates, and hopefully Ritter will come on in the evening. We're going to be doing wrap up shows every single day. So please, check out Josh, but check us out on this trial.
No, 100%. All right. Here is a question that I think is worth asking because we kind of breezed by it. But Susan Broadwater, thank you so much, says, I'm kind of a newbie to this. What was the reason for killing Dan Markel? Why did the mother-in-law or the possibly Wendy want him dead?
This is an amazing question to me because all of us are so enmeshed in the story that, and you got to remember the jurors are going to be like Susan, right? The jurors are going to need to know from beginning to end what happened. Dan Markel was born in Montreal. He grew up in Toronto. He went to Harvard undergrad and Harvard Law School. And he had these offers for these $1 million legal jobs at these big corporate firms. And I think he did it for a little bit and then said, I want to be a legal scholar. I'm interested in this, this, and this, and I want to teach. So he meets a woman named Wendy with an I, Adelson, and they kind of hit it off, get married, have 2 young children. That's Wendy on the left, Dan on the right, obviously. And then they have an issue with their marriage. And the biggest issue for the Adelsons was the kids are now living in Tallahassee, but Wendy is from South Florida, which is where I'm coming to you live from. And Donna is a very controlling mother. That's Ruth Markel, the mother of Dan and Phil Markel, who's a fantastic guy with the grandkids. And by the way, I'm not going to get into it out of respect to Ruth, but the grandchildren's names were changed to Adelson, and they've had a lot of issues. And one of the silver linings, if there is one, is the Markel Act was passed in Florida, which deals with grandparent alienation, which is a much bigger issue than people realize, because a lot of, family court issues, families break up, and then parents and grandparents are alienated, and it shouldn't be happening. And shame on the Adelsons for doing that. But that Donna wanted the kids to be close to her in Miami, and Dan didn't want to budge. And what's fascinating is at one point the Adelsons literally tried to bribe Dan and said, "We'll give you $1 million to move to Miami." And he said, "I don't want it because I love my job in Tallahassee." It's interesting that those $1 million may have gone to someone else to maybe kill Dan Markel. That's what a jury figured out. So that's the reason.
$1 million either way is gonna. They figured $1 million would get the job done, whether they gave it to him or somebody else to make sure that somehow their plans worked out. This is a great question from Joy W. Can, and maybe something I can weigh in on. But how difficult is it to obtain a warrant for wiretapping? Even it's extremely difficult. It is seen as one of it. By the way, it is not a common practice at all. It is seen as a real intrusion into people's privacy. When you're talking about warrants, the judge is concerned that you have to get a judge to approve every warrant. And their concern is always, how much of an invasion of privacy are we talking about here? How much of a abuse of somebody's Fourth Amendment rights are we talking about here? And when you're talking about getting someone's private phone calls, it's seen as a real intrusion into their privacy. And even with that, lots of times it will come with restrictions, like how much of a phone call are they allowed to listen to before they have to pull out and not listen to it anymore? Things like that. So for them to get a wiretap, they really had to have had very strong evidence to support the affidavit to get that wiretap. So you can read into that what you will, meaning they knew there was fire behind the smoke they were seeing, and a judge believed that as well. And for them to continue to get the wiretap, many times too, the judge will limit it. Okay, great, I'll give you a wiretap for 1 week or something. And they have to continue to renew that warrant, and they have to have good information. So they have to be able to provide to the judge, hey, we're getting really good stuff out of this. Allow us to continue these wiretaps. So great question. I get my clients, I'll have clients come in, and all the time they're very concerned with, not all the time, lots of times they're concerned with talking on the phone because they're worried about being tapped. And I'm like, listen, dude, I'm sure what you did was bad news, but it doesn't even register as a blip to most agencies, and they're not going to go through all the trouble of getting a wiretap. But
yeah, by the way, that sounds like content creator. Everyone thinks that the whole world's watching them when we're actually just meaningless people in general. One thing I want to say too, as if this was not enough, and this is important, another guy you're going to hear from in this case is very interesting and very credible, and his name is Jeff Lacasse. He was Wendy's boyfriend, and he looks eerily similar to Dan Markel in a lot of ways. And isn't it interesting when you find out, when Jeff Lacasse talks to police and then testifies at trial, that Wendy, who had now broken up with him, was extremely curious where he was going to be the day of July 18th, 2014, almost as if Wendy was setting him up to be a fall guy. And as luck would have it, Jeff Lacasse says, that's him, says to himself, I'm going to leave a day early or whatever. So he drives up to Tennessee. And I think that really took the Adelsons threw them for a loop, because by all accounts, by all appearances, by all the evidence that has been presented, this guy right here was being set up to be a fall guy. So not only are we talking about a family that hires a hitman to kill their son-in-law, this guy is a professor of social work who's since been got married, and he's a stand-up guy at Florida State. And to think that this family was willing to have him be the fall guy. This is what Josh was talking about. Innocent people get convicted. This guy could have been convicted if there was, nothing else to support the fact that he didn't do it, and he was there at the time, and he drove the exact same or very similar car to the hitmen. Very similar, almost like the Adelson said, "Hey, when you rent your car, make sure it looks like this car." So just another layer to this already fascinating story, and thank God Jeff did not get taken down.
Ruthless, just ruthless people too. And especially when you go back to the question we just talked about, why, the why behind all of this, just incredible selfishness. They were just not getting their way, their ideal family and how they wanted their lives led, and the idea that they didn't want to have to travel to see their grandkids, and they didn't want their daughter having to live up in horrible northern Florida. They wanted her back in southern Florida. Just like incredible selfishness. I don't know a better word for it. And that all the amount of lives they were willing to ruin in order to get that is pretty incredible.
Yeah. And they had it all at one point. I mean, look, they're living in the heart of Miami Beach at one point. They have a lot of money, albeit they're slumlords, they're periodontists, they had it all. And wanting the grandchildren to be in Miami instead of Tallahassee, it could have just flown up, or flown them down.
Couple more questions here, and I'm going to let Joel go back to his kids who are waiting for him at home patiently because they still don't have school. But
trust me, they will not be asleep, because as much as I love the COE, we have free range kids. Free range. I was a free range kid. Now there's no such thing as free range kids. I used to walk to I walked to elementary school alone. You couldn't do that with a kid. Now you've got to have them like GPSed and everything. It's crazy. Sorry.
Tina Hauser asked a great question. We've been talking a lot about Wendy. What about Harvey? This is Donna's husband. He's not an how should I put this? He's a character in this play. But we don't know what role he actually carried. What do you think are the chances that somewhere down the line he's wrapped up in all this?
Yeah, shout out to my good friend Catherine Regier in the Super Planner Girls here. A lot of people, I love that we share a lot of community members, and thank you, River, for the Carm love. But Harvey, when Carm called me and she was on your show a little while ago, we should have asked her from day one. I don't want to make comparisons, even though we joke about this, but Carm is sometimes, maybe once a year, an overbearing Jewish mother. My father, may he rest in peace. He was sort of soft-spoken, got yelled at by Carm every single day of his life. My dad was incredibly smart, just like very rational, very I don't know, just very smart and practical to Carm's sometime hysteria. Anyway, so Carm always says there's, she compares, there's analogies to be made between the families minus the murder, Carm always says, but she believes 100% that Harvey, there's no way he was not involved in some way, and likely financially. He was making a lot of money. This family is so enmeshed. There's just no way with the amount they talk that guy didn't know at least a part of this story. They're all talking in code, by the way. They all use code words with the FBI. And it's my contention, this is a personal opinion, there's no way Wendy wasn't complicit in this in some way.
Yeah. I agree with you. Again, I don't see them doing it. I don't see them doing that without her somehow giving them a nod. Somewhere along the line, a nod was made, and whether she was more involved than that or not, but somewhere along the line, they got the okay from her. You always ask me whenever I come on your show to give me kind of your final thoughts, and I think this is a perfect cue for that. Hold on, where did it go here? The question from Barbelson I think is a perfect setup for that. How does a successful family go from having a thriving business to hiring hitmen to kill someone? What are your final thoughts on this case before we head into trial next week?
Number one, I want to say, and I'm being serious here, not sarcastic. I absolutely love my wife, the COE. I love my mother, and I love my children. For those who have been following me, it was an interesting week. And they're the backbone. And they're good families and they're bad families. And this is just as my dad would say, just a rotten apple that they had choices to make, this family. Everything in life, my dad used to say, he used to quote Jean Paul Sartre. My dad was a psychiatrist, by the way, but the only choice one does not have is not to choose. So you've always got a choice. Doesn't matter if you're got a mental illness, if you're down on your luck, whatever it is, whatever it is. And these people made the absolute wrong choice. They thought that if we can't control the situation, we'll kill the problem. And Charlie went down for it. They dragged two gangbangers into it. They dragged another woman, Katie McManawa, who has children. Those kids' lives are ruined. Charlie's son's life is essentially ruined because he's going to be raised without a father. Luis Rivera, even though they're gang members, they have kids who are innocent in all this. And they made the choice, instead of being rational, to be killers. And Charlie paid for it. Donna's about to pay for it. And Wendy, who moved from Miami suddenly to Austin, is now reportedly in Colorado. And you can run, but you cannot hide. And I am convinced Georgia Kappelman does not like her, by the way. And it's not a personal thing, but there's a competitiveness there. If I'm Wendy Adelson, I am not having too much fun when I close my eyes at night.
No. Well, if you're buying any tickets, just make sure you make them round trip just in case.
Yes.
Joel, thank you so much. I always appreciate you because like I said, you've been living this case for a while, and for all the insights that you bring on this. Next week, trial starts. Go to Surviving the Survivor. You're going to be at the trial, correct?
Correct. 1 week from today. No, 1 week from yesterday. I don't know what day it is. It's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Anyway, the trial will be, we will be in the trial this time next week, and I'll be there.
All right, my friend. Thank you again.
Thank you, Josh. One of the best guys there is. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. And he has a great wife too. Never met the kids, but I hope they go back. But I hope they go back to school real soon.
They will next week.
All right.
All right, brother. Have a good night.
Take care, man. Thank you.
All right. Follow Surviving the Survivor if you aren't already. I'm sure that you guys are. A lot of our community overlaps with each other, but always appreciate hearing from Joel. All right. Let's give you guys some announcements really quick and then get you out of here. Like I said, I gave you that extra, what was it, 6 minutes? We got the 6 minutes on the tail end. First of all, go to thecourtroomconfidential.com for all of the updates that you want about our channel. If you want to know about membership, you can go there to find out about how to join our membership program. A lot of you have done that. We appreciate that. If you want to leave us a message for Sunday Fun Day coming up this Sunday, where we answer your questions live, you can do that from the website as well. You click on the send us a message button. And merch, if you want to find out about our new merch. By the way, did anybody notice this is a brand new color that I'm wearing tonight? What is the name of this one, Tiff? This is one that we haven't seen before. This is one of Tiffany's favorites, by the way. She just said she likes this color a lot. And the reason I'm wearing this is that we are going to be releasing new stuff next week. Periwinkle, I saw, was a guess. Oh, Tiff says taking suggestions. We're going to start naming our own colors. Is that what's happening now? I'm blown away. Periwinkle Frost. Wonder Plum. Oh, can we enter that in the contest? I already like that. Wonder Plum. Well, if you want to pick up your Wonder Plum shirt, please make sure to, by the way, the CC merch is great. Wore my burgundy Courtroom Confidential shirt this week. I love that. Oh, that's very sweet. If you want to pick up a burgundy or a Wonder Plum, you can go to thecourtroomconfidential.com. A special thing I want to share with you guys. We really try our best, and I hope that you notice that we never want to go do a live stream and have that interrupted by ads. And one of the ways that we're trying to accomplish that is by sponsorships. And we have our first sponsor ever that we're happy to announce to you. If you are dealing with something like robocalls or spam emails or personal data you're concerned with or leaked passwords, there is a program called Aura. Aura is your all-in-one digital security platform. If you go to aura.com/courtroom confidential, you can get a 14-day free trial where they will provide you with alerts, a VPN, an antivirus, a password manager, an ID theft insurance, US-based security. I love it. I use it. And I'll tell you what I love about it is that I'm getting emails now from companies I've never heard of saying we have removed your information from our database. And that's all because Aura has gone about doing that for me. You enter your information and they go about scrubbing the internet and protecting you. So please check it out. It's free for 14 days. It's a great product, and it's also a great way to support the channel. So we hope that you check it out. CrimeCon is coming up. We talked a little bit about that. It is coming up this September. Wow, less than a month away. September 5th through 7th in Denver. We are going to be there. It is our first CrimeCon for Courtroom Confidential. We've got a booth. We'd love you to come by and say hi. We asked CrimeCon for a discount code for you. They gave us one. If you enter courtroom at checkout, you get 10% off. And if you needed another excuse, we have been nominated for an award at CrimeCon for what they call their Clue Awards. We have been nominated in the category of best or outstanding podcast episodic series. So 3 weeks away, says Sneemac. We hope to see a lot of you there. And I don't know, hopefully maybe Courtroom Confidential might be walking away with some hardware. So check that out. What you missed this week. On Monday, we had Kevin Fixler on from the Idaho Statesman. He's always a fan favorite. We talked a lot about some fact or fiction with the Idaho case. Now that new information is coming out, we can dispel some myths that you may have heard, some misinformation that's floating out around there. Check that out, that show. On Saturday, we have our weekly roundup that premieres at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern. Where we're covering all of the news that took place this week. If you don't have time to watch everything, at least watch the weekly roundup and you'll get caught up on everything that took place that week. And also Saturday live at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, we are having our members only live for the month. This is our September members only live. That is for everybody who's a member in the classified or above level. Join us 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern for a live check-in. We always have a good time. And then Sunday is Sunday Fun Day. Never heard of it? Well, if you have, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know, then check it out. This Sunday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, we're going to be answering your questions that you've sent us throughout the week. I got to update that photo of me. I got to wear a better shirt and have a smile on my face. I'm looking a little grumpy there. Caitlin says, yes, you do need to update that picture. All right, let me say thank you to some of our members and then get you guys out of here. These are some of our brand new members. PGH Deb 412. These are the handles that we have for you guys. Chloe, Marie Frere, Sue Ellen Peters, Beast, Sarah Sky Craig, Mella, Liza Trick, Cotton Mitts, Dawn Schnabel, Tammy Lynn, Stephanie, Hot Spice Jess, NJ Kathy, Blake Morgan, Ann Hayhurst, Maria McAdrian, Paulina Gillette, Taz, oh boy, Wajurlobi. If your guess is as good as mine, thank you so much, Taz. Lori, Brooke, Care Jacobs, Whatever Clever, Feather, Lion SC, Greg S, CJ, Jane Sewell, Grandma Law Nerd, pardon me, Grandma Law Nerd, Kelly Rogers, Yasmin Farr, Wendy Taylor, Val, Donna Barkley, Paige Warner, Dana Babe, Pamela Murray, Words Matter 89, Tracy Kellum, Christy Delavaccio, Texas Annie Sound Waves, Eves and Designs, Objection 403, Joni Finnell, Janelle Rodenbaugh, Annalise, Michelle Dematis, Bayou Babe, JJ's Ladybug, Miracle Girl, and Emmy Rose. Emmy Rose, thank you for having a simple name. I appreciate you becoming a member. Finally, a big thank you to Kaylin and to Tiffany for doing everything behind the scenes, to also Figgy Stardust for becoming a member. Did I miss anybody else? Chihuahua Mama for becoming a member. Oh, and to ourselves. Thank you, Courtroom Confidential, for contributing some memberships. So enjoy that, everybody. And finally, thank you to Afton and Shigal, Kathy, and Therapist You Know for being our mods and making everything run so smoothly. You guys are fantastic. Thank you for joining us on a Wednesday. We will see you all Saturday for the roundup and Sunday back here for a live Sunday Fun Day. Take care, everybody. Have a